Perennial philosophy, Aldous Huxley, in medias res, so to speak, on page 13. Between the Catholic mystics of the 14th and 15th centuries and the Quakers of the 17th, there yawns a wide gap of time, most hideous so far as religion is concerned, with interdenominational wars and persecutions, but the gulf was bridged by a succession of men whom Rufus Jones, in the only accessible English work devoted to their lives and teachings, has called the spiritual reformers. Dank, Frank, Castellio, Virgil, Eberhard, Cambridge Platonists, in spite of the murdering and the madness, the apostolic succession remains unbroken. The truths that have been spoken in the Theologia Germanica, that book which Luther professed to love so much, and from which, if we may judge from his career, he learned so singularly little, was being uttered once again by Englishmen during the Civil War and under the Cromwellian dictatorship. The mystical tradition perpetuated by the Protestant spiritual reformers had become diffused, as it were, in the religious atmosphere of the time when George Fox had his first great opening anew by direct experience, that every man was enlightened by the divine light of Christ. I saw it shine through all, and that they that believed in it came out of condemnation and came to the light of life and became the children of it, and that they that hated it and did not believe in it were condemned by it, though they made a little profession of Christ. This I saw in the pure openings of light, without the help of any man. Neither did I then know where to find it in the Scriptures, though afterwards, searching the Scriptures, I found it from Fox's journal. The doctrine of the interlight achieved a cleverer formulation in the writings of the second generation of Quakers. There is, wrote William Penn, quote, something nearer to us than the Scriptures, to wit, the Word in the heart, from which all Scriptures came. And a little later, Robert Barclay sought to explain the direct experience of tvam in terms of an Augustinian theology that had, of course, to be considerably stretched and trimmed before it could fit the facts. Man, he declared in his famous thesis, is a fallen being incapable of good unless united to the divine light. This divine light is Christ within the human soul, and is as universal as the seed of sin. All men, heathen as well as Christian, are endowed with the inward light. Even though they may know nothing of the outward history of Christ's life, justification is for those who do not resist the inner light, and so permit of a new birth of holiness within them. Goodness needeth not enter into the soul, for it is there already, only it is unperceived. The Theologia Germanica. So why didn't Luther just take that literally? When the 10,000 things are viewed in their oneness, we return to the origin and remain there where we have always been. Sen Swain. Is that Chinese guy or somebody? It is because we don't know who we are, because we are unaware that the kingdom of heaven is within us, that we behave in the generally silly, often insane, and sometimes criminal ways that are so characteristically human. We are saved, we are liberated and enlightened by the perceiving the hitherto unperceived good that is already within us, by returning to our eternal ground and remaining where, without knowing it, we have always been. Plato speaks in the same scene when he says in the Republic that, quote, the virtue of wisdom, more than anything else, contains a divine element which always remains. And in the Theaetetus, he makes the point, so frequently issued upon by those who have practiced spiritual religion, that it is only by becoming godlike that we can know God, and to become godlike is to identify ourselves with the divine element, which in fact constitutes our essential nature, but of which, in our mainly voluntary ignorance, we choose to remain unaware. Quote, there are on the way to truth one to truth who they are on the way to truth who apprehend God by means of the divine light, by the light Philo. Philo was the exponent of the Hellenist mystery religion, who grew up, as Professor Goodenough has shown, among the Jews of the dispersion between about 200 BC and 100 AD, reinterpreting the Pentateuch in terms of the metaphysical system derived from the Platonism, Neo-Pythagoreanism, and Stoicism. Philo transformed the wholly transcendental, almost anthropomorphically personal God of the Old Testament into the eminent, transcendent, absolute mind of the perennial philosophy. But even from the orthodox scribes and Pharisees of that momentous century, which witnessed, along with the dissemination of Philo's doctrines, the first beginnings of Christianity and the destruction of the temples at Jerusalem, even from the guardians of the law, we hear significantly mystical utterances. Hillel, the great rabbi, whose teachings on humility and the love of God and man read like an earlier, cruder version of some of the gospel sermons, is reported to have spoken these words to an assemblage in the courts of the temple, quote, if I am here, it is to Jehovah who is speaking through the mouth of his prophet, everyone is here. If I am not here, no one is here. This is God talking. He says, if I am here, everyone is here. If I am not here, no one is here. Quote, the beloved is all in all. The lover merely veils him. The beloved is all that lives. The lover is a dead thing. Rumi. Jalaluddin Rumi. There, quote, there is a spirit in the soul, untouched by time and flesh, flowing from the spirit, remaining in the spirit itself. Holy spiritual. In this principle is God, ever verdant, ever flowering in all the joy and glory of his actual self. Sometimes I've called this principle the tabernacle of the soul, sometimes a spiritual light. Anon I say it is a sparka. But now I say that it is more exalted over this and that from the heavens are exalted above the earth, so now I name it in a nobler fashion. It is free of all names and void of all forms. It is one and simple, as God is one and simple, and no man can in any wise behold it. That's Eckhart. We are reading from In Medias Res, captions of page 13 to 16. From Perennial Philosophy, Aldous Huxley. Interesting, this book is written, I think, around 1945. It's his sort of collecting all his quotes and things. Well, he's the author of Brave New World. I'm going to stop there reading a sample of Perennial Philosophy, Aldous Huxley.